For Mike Decker, entrepreneurship and business boils down to this. He challenges people to think and act with greater clarity. He questions broken concepts and provides you principle-based solutions to solve your impediments. He's the owner and founder of the Advisor Suite, which acts as your virtual CMO, developing your marketing campaigns with you and then implementing them for you. They utilize emotional intelligence to better understand behavior in an effort to improve the quality of your leads. They also use real-time data to optimize and quantify the quality and quantity of your lead sources for continuous improvement. If you're intrigued on how marketing backed by emotional intelligence and real-time data can work for you, stick around because Decker joined me this week to tell me more. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Mike, if you're ready, I'll welcome you to the show, and I'm excited to talk to you today all about entrepreneurship. Great to be with you, and thanks for letting me virtually travel to Utah today, and good to see you this morning.
Yeah, it's good to see you too, Kevin.
So, Mike, you tell the people around you that you help through your businesses, you help people get greater clarity with their business and sort of challenge broken concepts. So I'm wondering if we can start our conversation by you expanding on that notion.
Yeah, so my research in marketing and sales shows that today a lot of people are trying to manipulate someone to force someone to do something, right? This ad will trigger this emotion, which will get you to do this, that, or the other. And the consumer is getting smarter and more aware of this. And there's this natural resistance against these tactics that's growing right now. And what's been interesting is for those who are switching over to be more principle based, and I'll define what that means in a second, that they're meeting less resistance and they're getting higher sales, higher conversions, and overall better results. Now, I define it as the three principles of marketing. And Kevin, is it okay if I just briefly explain what those are for the listeners?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
So there are three principles. The first one's the principle of change. And this explains why someone's going to use your services or buy that product over the other product or whatever the change may be. And the principle is universal, but the principle of change suggests that unless the pain of change becomes less than the pain of continuing on, people don't change. I mean, we resist change in our life. Change is uncomfortable. And so it's not about selling them on benefits and benefits and benefits. Like, that's fine. If they're comfortable, they're not going to change. They want to solve an issue that they have. Now, the other one, the second principle is the principle of permission. I love this because if you've got any friend or relationship or just you met someone, you know this because your unsolicited advice isn't really that effective. They really don't care. The principle of permission suggests that unless someone gives you permission to speak to them, they're not listening. So when you walk up to someone who isn't asking for your advice and you say, hey, you should do this, they're going to smile and say, thanks, and then just carry on. But when someone asks for your advice, they're listening, they're captive, And that's the critical part, especially for marketing, is getting people's permission. And then once you have their permission, and a sign of that is like they give you an email, they download something, they give you their email, they're getting your newsletter now. You can now talk to them. They want to talk to you about that. And then the third one is the principle of direction, and that suggests that unless you clearly define what you're offering, what's expected, and what the next steps are, that you're going to lose your customers. There has to be clarity in what your messaging is, and there's a lot of ambiguity out there with a lot of marketing campaigns.
And Mike, you describe yourself as a self-made entrepreneur that relies on emotional intelligence to help both yourself and the people in life you serve. So I'm wondering if you can dive into how emotional intelligence has helped you be a successful marketer.
Yeah, so emotional intelligence really is, it's the study of your emotional intellectual capacity. So IQ is intelligence, like knowledge, right? Emotional intelligence, it's the awareness that you might have for yourself and for those around you. And research has now shown that the higher emotional intelligence you have, the more successful you will be in your job. It's not about how smart you are, it's how aware you are of yourself and what's going on. And so for like example, my clients that I do marketing for, I run a company called the Advisor Suite, one of my companies, and it does marketing for financial advisors. And it's a lot of fun when working with the advisor and with the marketing department to really figure out through emotional intelligence, what does the user want, and then based on what they want, how do you get it to them. I mean, for goodness sakes, the financial industry is one of the most distrusted industries of all, and yet we're able to find great success by not trying to manipulate people, just by trying to use the EQ side of things and be very neutral about the whole process.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if you can tell me about the Advisor Suite. I know it's a full service marketing service that services financial advisors. And I'm also curious to get your thoughts on how working with financial advisors is interesting in the time of COVID as well. What are they telling you about the economic recovery as we go through this pandemic?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, there we that's a Pandora's box we can open up. But I mean, quick story for I spent about a decade in the financial services. Then I made the Advisor Suite because I felt that the marketing tactics were broken, and so I created the company to solve that issue. And it's very niche. When you have a niche, you live with a lot of plentiful. There's so much business to have. When you try and work with everyone, you end up working with no one. But in regards to the financial recovery and such, there's a lot of speculation on what that could be, whether stimuluses are given or not given, whether the jobs come back or not come back. I think the most sound indicator, and it's just an indicator, it's not a not necessarily guaranteed, is something called the 18-year market cycle, and that just suggests that markets go up and they go flat on an average around 18 years, with a lot of government involvement, that time span shortening. But it looks like we're going to be flat for a while, and then we'll have another nice up market. And so I just, from an overall standpoint, economically speaking, it's make sure you've got a budget, stay out of debt, and don't bank on getting incredible returns. You might get lucky here and there, but overall, it's doesn't look like it's going to be really nice for the next couple of years as we try to recover.
And Mike, I'm curious, just before we started this, you had mentioned that most of your businesses are online and digital. So I'm curious to ask you, what excites you the most about the future of digital marketing?
So with digital marketing and we're working remote, there's two things I think that are really prevalent. One is digital marketing. So there's a big controversy right now with Apple and how they are launching extra privacy for the users. It says, "Hey, Facebook, for example, is tracking what you're doing on your phone. Are you okay with that?" And most people are going to say, "No, I want my privacy," and they'll shut that off. But what they don't realize is that when Facebook is tracking it, they're not trying to figure out who you are and use that against you. They're trying to connect you with relevant ads and small businesses that would be a good fit. And so when we get rid of that privacy, we're also getting rid of the advantage that digital marketing has. I don't want to see ads that are irrelevant to me. If I'm going to have to see ads to keep Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, whatever up and running, I'd rather see the ads I want to see. Like I just saw one for Misfit Market. It's an organic produce that ships it to you. There's no way I'd ever learn about that, but Facebook knew what I wanted, and then they showed me a relevant ad. So I think the whole privacy conversation has been a bit skewed and fear-based, and not fully understood on how much benefit it gives to small businesses. And small business really is the backbone of our economy, in my opinion. But all things said and done, I think remote work is one of the most incredible things that has happened to us because of the ability to get back into the home and spend time with family. I mean, I see my 9-month-old kid 4 times a day. I wake up with them. I take lunch and hang out with them. I'll take a little break and hang out with them. There's no way I'd ever do that if I was at the office. So I think there is a beautiful side to it that maybe isn't as appreciated.
And I know that you've started and ran upwards of 20 companies, a lot of companies in the past. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on how the small business sector can use digital marketing and entrepreneurship to sort of remain stable or continue to be profitable in this time.
Yeah, so it's all about understanding what your niche is and honing down your marketing. So in the most basic marketing and sales function, what you're going to operate off of are these 6 steps. The first one is you go out there and you announce something of value that you have. Here's a guide on this topic, or here's 3 steps to do this, whatever it is, lose weight, work out, here's a supplement, or here's clothing, fashion advice, whatever it is. And then you exchange that. This is step 2. You exchange that for an email or a name or a number or something. You never give anything out for free. There's always an exchange. And then from there, the third step is to gather data. When you gather data based on what they want, now you can go back and say, this is what I offer, this is what's expected, and here's the next step to proceed. These are step 5, 6, and 4, 5, and 6. People want what they want. People aren't going to operate off what they need. And so when you can figure out what they want and then retarget them back through segmentation and automation, mostly email marketing is what I'm talking about right now, you increase the probability of sales while lessening your overall ad spend. There's too much ad spend being done for trying to get the first appointment without any context of what they even want. It's just wasted money. Building the email list, figuring out what they want, and then segmenting saves tons of money, and it drives more results, more leads. So
And
that's
my
the way I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. And Mike, I spend a lot of time working with individuals with disabilities in terms of employment and opening up doors of opportunity for that segment of our population. And I have found that the digital marketing space is a good niche for people with disabilities who may have transportation issues or other obstacles towards employment. So I'm wondering your thoughts on the amount of opportunities that are open through the digital marketing space for individuals with disabilities.
There are 3 things that I'm going to say, two right now, and one that's a future thing that's gaining these skills right now, and really taking the initiative that no one's going to pay you to learn it. If you learn it yourself, then you're going to get the nicer jobs. And the first one is understanding writing. I am still just floored at the quality of writing that I see people do, even on websites and different places. Being an effective communicator starts with writing, and the only way to get good at writing is to write more. And so first off, just understanding language and writing is huge. But the second one is the brilliance or the genius behind building systems. All good startups started with a system. They weren't just winging it, throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks. They started with a system. And this is another superpower I've noticed in the workplace that's rare to find, are people who can build effective or efficient systems. It's huge. And then the last one, I think this is going to be one of the biggest up and comers, is videography or video editing. So a lot of us now have webcams and we can take our own videos, but then you have to cut it, splice it, and edit it. And with the rise of YouTube video learning, companies like Teachable, online courses, and so on and so forth, we would rather watch a video than read something. We would rather watch a video than listen to something. In most situations, if you're on a run, you'll probably listen to something. But video marketing, I think, is going to be, it's already big now, but I think it's only going to get better. And so learning like After Effect or was it Premiere Pro, the different video editing softwares is going to be extremely valuable in a very technical niche here in a little bit.
And Mike, as you know, this is International Women's History Month, so I'm curious to know what sort of an impact that women have had on your life as well.
You know, you can't be successful without incorporating women in your life, in the workplace, in personal life. I think so highly of women, and if I had anything that I had to say on the topic, it would be, you have more value than you realize. Negotiate for it, because I've sat at the other side of the table, and true story, a couple of times I've hired women, and in the interview I gave them the offer and they accepted, and I said, wait, so what you're telling me is that you won't accept this unless you get this, this, and this. And they said, no, I didn't say that. And I said, no, what you mean to say is you need this, this. And I was trying to help them because I knew I could offer them more. But you never offer them more. You always start low and wait for the negotiation so they get what they want. And you don't just throw everything out there, because the business still has to make money. And each time it took them a moment to realize, oh, and so why getting, more PTO or extra benefits or whatever it may be, or even a little bit more money, negotiate. You have the power. You have extreme value, more value than you may realize. Go for it. If they're giving you an offer, it means they want you and they're willing to work for it.
And Mike, I'm curious to know, you've had a lot of experiences in the entrepreneurial space and the digital space as well. I'm curious to know, what do you think is your most sustainable impact or imprint you've made on the space you're currently working in?
I think it's too soon to tell with that one. I mean, I appreciate the question, but in my mind, it's still trying to figure itself out on remote work, digital marketing. I mean, if I had one imprint, the principles that I put together in the digital marketing space and marketing in general, but from the entrepreneurial side of things, all I can say is the best is yet to come.
And my final question for you is, when you're not working, what gets you out of bed and most excited to do in the morning?
It's really development of creativity. So like right now, or I just finished a couple of months of deliberately writing every single day through a program called Ship 30 for 30. And it was just remarkable. Now I'm creating more creativity within in drawing every day. And that's just remarkable. It's so difficult to draw. So when you're learning to do hard things, it's a lot of fun. But I mean, aside from that, golf, ski, mountain bike, being outdoors, playing with my family. I can't get enough of my 9-month-old kid. He's just the best.
Well, family first is my motto all the time. Absolutely, Mike. And I'm not surprised you gave me that skiing answer living in Utah, huh?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, Mike, if anyone wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do that? I know you have an active profile on LinkedIn, but is there another way people can connect with you if they're so inclined to do so?
Yeah. LinkedIn, Twitter, all my handles are Mike Kederick. That's Kedrec. You can go Twitter, Mike Kederick, LinkedIn, just / Mike Kederick, or go look up Michael Decker. Happy to connect with people. I pretty much accept everyone's request on LinkedIn. It's a nice place to network, and you never know who you're going to run into there.
Well, yeah, and we found each other on the matchmaking platform, and I always tell people that life is a constant game of networking, so I appreciate that response.
It's my pleasure.
So, Hey, Mike, I really appreciate spending some time with you this morning to talk entrepreneurship, your business journey, and everything in between. Really appreciate the time, and I want to thank you for being here. It's most appreciated.
Thank you for having me, Kevin.